Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Fantasy Trifecta. I'm your host, as always, Anthony Shulo, here to talk to you guys today about the NBA slate. Talk about both slates, actually. We got a slate starting in about 2.5 hours here, 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, 3 games. And then also I want to talk about the slate that starts at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, 4 gamers. So got some free time, so I thought I'd talk about both slates here. And yeah, without further ado, let's just get right into it. So the first game we have Milwaukee taking on Chicago. Very interesting game here. So, and just to kind of briefly talk, I like both slates actually a lot from a fantasy perspective. I think that all these games are intriguing to target from a fantasy perspective, but I do think that there's maybe some landmines we could avoid in terms of players that could maybe fail at their price point. We'll definitely talk about that, but I definitely think this is a slate where we need to attack, play, have some volume on, but be careful. So yeah, let's just talk about the first game. We got Milwaukee taking on Chicago. Giannis is back playing like his normal self, full allotment of minutes. He is priced above 11K. Not really too interested in him. Again, as I kind of reiterated before, we don't really want to pay up for studs unless if we have the right value for them. Like yesterday, Frazier, the other point guard that was starting for Wall. If you played them, you were able to afford those studs on the slate yesterday. Now we don't have a lot of obvious values, so yeah, if like values open up prior to lock, he's in play, but for now, I'm going to pass on Giannis at that elevated price tag, but this is a good spot. So if value opens up, we could consider him for sure. But for now, I'm definitely liking Eric Bledsoe. 6,600 I think is too cheap. That's a buy low spot on him. We could take advantage of some recency bias. This is a good spot. Chicago plays very fast and pace. This is definitely a pace up spot for Milwaukee. And I like Bledsoe a lot. He has the second highest usage on this team. Giannis, him, and Middleton all have fairly high usage, so I like that. And then also, speaking of which, I do like Middleton too. Middleton didn't do great last game. I think people might be a little bit off of him because Giannis is back, but I still think this is somewhat of a buy low spot on him. Yes, he should. I would like him more if he was priced below 7K, but 7,200 I don't think is bad. He has those games where he has shooting volume upwards of 20 shots, even when Giannis is on the court, so I like him there. He also has steal upside, block upside. So I definitely think Middleton is in play, like him a lot. I like Bledsoe a little bit more for the pricing discount. But yeah, definitely like both plays there. Other than that, I'm not really loving a whole lot. We got to watch out for Malcolm Brogdon, the injury on him. I think if he's out of play, that makes those guys that I mentioned more in play. Brogdon, although he's not thought of as a high usage guy, he does take up some usage on that team. He's the fourth guy in that regard for usage. Just keep an eye on that. If he plays, we can maybe consider him, although we might not. I mean, we'll probably get the news before lock, but just be cautious on him. I think if you're playing him, it's a multiple lineup type of play. If you're making 1 to 3 lineups, I don't think you have to play him. I'd consider the other guys over him. So yeah, and then on the Bulls side, I think people might look to go to Valentine. I understand it, but I think that last game was somewhat of not an outlier. He could go off here, but he had a really good shooting night. Got a double-double. You don't see that often from him. So yes, while I do like Valentine, and his price didn't go up that much from his good performance, so I think people will look to go there, but I'm probably going to pass. I just think that, look at the last few games when Chris Dunn was out. He's only exceeded that crazy value once, so I'm probably going to pass on him in this pace down, tougher spot. But I understand going there. On the Bulls side, my favorite plays are probably Markkanen. I think he's a little too cheap. With Dunn off the court, yes, he's not done great the past few games, but I think at a low ownership, high upside, I think we could definitely look his way. My favorite play on the Bulls, though, is probably actually Robin Lopez. People might look to pass on him because he hasn't seen the minutes the last few games, but I think this is a situation where he might get thrusted into more minutes. Milwaukee plays big. I think they could throw Lopez out there more. It feels like the New Orleans spot, not to that extreme, but just the extreme just the perspective of he's going to be out there more because they need the big guy to go out there and guard Henson, Giannis out there. So, and like I said before, we want to attack Milwaukee with bigs. They're horrible at defending the big position. So I definitely think we could look at Lopez for a suppressed ownership, a cheaper price. So I definitely like Lopez in this spot. Other than that, I'm not going to look towards Portis's way. He's just not seeing the minutes. Yes, he could go off multiple lineup type of play. Justin Holiday, I understand it. I just think you're kind of guessing if it's going to be him or Valentine who's going to get that, who's going to go off in this game, if any of them. So I'm probably going to pass on him. And then, yeah, just Levine not seeing the minutes. If we get word that he'll see 30 minutes, maybe. But at 6K in this matchup, I'm probably going to pass. I had him the other day when they played the Lakers. He didn't do well. There's no reason to think that he'll do better in this spot. He could, sure, but at a higher price tag in a harder spot, I'm probably going to pass. And other than that, that'll do it for this game, I think. The plays that I mentioned, those are really the only guys that I'm considering. So yeah, I think it's a good game to target, though, in general. All three of these games, I should say. But yeah, and then next game, we've got Phoenix taking on Houston. I like this game a ton. Both these teams play pretty fast. Houston is 8th in pace. Phoenix is 4th. So in that regard, a good fantasy potential game. And then what else? So I think people might be a little worried that this game could blow out. Sure, it could, but let's not think like that. Let's play as if this game stays close. So on Phoenix's side of the ball, I definitely like Booker. He's starting to get more ball handling responsibility. I like that a lot. I don't think people will look to go to him. He's not done well the past couple of games, but it's Devin Booker. This is a great spot. I think he could get hot here, go off if this game stays close. That's kind of what I thought about Kyrie yesterday. If that game stays close, I have to think he's a big reason why. TJ Warren, people might look to go to him. It's a decent price tag on him, but he hasn't done that great since coming back from his injury. I don't know if it's still like lingering on him or what, but Warren's in play, but I probably prefer Booker over him for the higher upside, and just a better matchup for him, I think. What else? So I also think we could give a good look to Marquise Chris here. He didn't do well last game. At 4,700, though, I think that's a great price tag on him. A spot where he could go off, a pace-up spot. He's the type of player where we need to worry about foul trouble a little bit, but he has double-double upside, could get steals, could get blocks. He's a very peripheral stat generator player, if like butchering that verbiage up. But yeah, I like Chris a lot. People might look to go to Josh Jackson. I'm probably going to pass. He's just not a high-usage guy for me. I think that part of the reason why he had so much success last game was because it blew out against the Knicks. And I'm going to just bank that he doesn't do that again. I think Josh Jackson's just pretty inconsistent. We have to watch out for Chandler and Len's injuries. I think that if they're both out, we could definitely give a look to Greg Monroe. He's done very well when he gets the minutes, the usage. I think he's definitely in play if they're out. I think we should get that news before lock because it's 2:30 game. Another reason why I like this slate a lot. What else? Troy Daniels is starting, but I'm just going to pass. I don't think he has the upside even for that price tag. If people want to go there, I understand. If you're a cash game player, I guess he's safe, but I don't play cash games. If you do, good luck, but I'm just going to pass. What else? Yeah, I said Warren. He's kind of in play. If I were to rank the Suns, though, I'd probably go Booker, Monroe. If Chandler and Len are out, I'd go Booker, Monroe, Chris, Warren, and then the rest is just not in play. And if the two bigs play, Len or one of the other, if Len and or Chandler play, I think that would be Booker, Chris, Warren, and then the rest is just a pass, just to kind of paint a picture in your head. So it's kind of a what-if scenario, but we should get the news before lock, so I'm not too worried about that. Houston. So people might look to go to James Harden. People feel compelled for some reason to pay up for the stud of the slate on a small slate. I don't necessarily feel that way. You shouldn't feel pressure to. I don't think that you should pay up for them if you don't have the value. I just think it's that simple. People might, and we'll talk about the later slate, Russell Westbrook. It's a short slate. People might be like, oh, I got to play Westbrook, I understand the thought process there. You want the raw points, but I don't think we should pay up for studs unless if we have the right value plays. That's just how I feel about paying up for them in general. Harden is in play, yeah, but I think we need the value plays to play him in a lineup. Same kind of thing with Paul. He's just a little too expensive for the nature of the slate so far. Could we get injury news before lock? Sure, absolutely. But on a 3-game slate, it's less likely. Again, condensed player pool, so who knows? What else? So, yeah, I definitely like Capella a lot in this spot. He did well against this team last time. Capella is one of those players who could get double-doubles, blocks, a guy that does well when James Harden is on and off the court. So he's just not... I think he probably actually plays better when they're both on the Paul and Harden there. They could, dish him alley-oops, just dish him the ball in general, facilitate the offense in a way where he could excel. So definitely like Capella here is one of my favorite plays on Houston. Also, I definitely like Eric Gordon here. He's cheap. He has the ability to get hot shooting the ball. And like we said, Phoenix, bad defensive team. Does not play well, plays fast. This is just a great game to target. Probably a better game to target than the previous game, but this is just a spot where I think that we could attack Eric Gordon. I think people might look to go to him. They'll see the last game, know that this is a better spot. I understand it. I recommend him, but he's probably if you're making 3 lineups, you could throw him in one. He might make the cut for the one that I'm making right now. But I'm definitely considering him for his high upside at that price tag. I just think he's a little too cheap for this circumstance. What else? The joke about Ryan Anderson, I guess, is you got to play him on the road. But even if this was a road game, I probably wouldn't consider him. He's just a little too inconsistent for me. Ryan Anderson's always a multiple lineup type of play for me, unless if you're forced into him. He's just really inconsistent. If he gets hot from 3, then you'll do well. But if he doesn't, he really can't reach the upside. He doesn't get a ton of rebounds. So he's done well for me in the past, but just knowing from experience playing Ryan Anderson, he's the type of guy, if you're making multiple lineups, you want to play him, but not for one. That'll do it for that game. Last game of the slate, the early slate. That's why I like this Sunday slates, because you get some early games and you get, in my opinion, better tournaments because they're smaller and it's easier to come in first place and whatnot and do well. The prize pool might be smaller, but I think your likelihood of coming in first place, going to the top, is higher. So I like that aspect of it better. So Clippers, New Orleans, I think this is a great game to target too for obvious reason. We have Boogie Cousins is out for the season, unfortunately. It's sad to see, any player go out with a horrible injury like that, but I know that his team will definitely be missing him. It's an off-topic thing, but I think that kind of crushes their playoff hopes. They're still a solid team without him, but I think that they kind of need Boogie to solidify their position in the playoffs. So it's unfortunate to hear. He's a great player, but we'll see what happens going forward. I think people will definitely look to go to Anthony Davis. I understand it. I just think that, again, the same thing I thought about Harden and Giannis. We need the values to pay up for them. We don't have the values yet, so I don't think we should play Davis right now. I really don't. I don't think you should be forced to play him when there's other players on the team that are cheaper that are also thrusted into higher usage spots. So into that segue, I think that we could definitely consider Drew Holiday. I like him a lot. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate. I think he'll be popular, but rightfully so. Rondo is interesting because Rondo usually does well when Boogie is out. His minutes are not safe at all. And if Holiday was out versus Boogie Cousins, I think that'd make Rondo more in play, right? Because it's a guard that's leaving versus a big guy. Rondo just doesn't see the minutes. It's weird. This is a nice price tag on him. If you're making one lineup, probably don't play Rondo. But if you're making 3 or more, I think Rondo's definitely in play. I don't know how popular he'll be. I definitely like Drew the best. And then I also like Miller as well. His first name is Darius Miller. Like him a lot. I think that he's a guy that'll be a beneficiary to the Cousins news. Cousins is a big guy. Miller is a small forward, power forward. I think they could look to go to him. He's been successful when they've played him. So, yeah, I like Miller a lot. He's a nice value play. Not the stone minimum, but at $4,500, I definitely think he could 6x that salary. Cunningham and some of these other role players, they just don't see the upside. Moore even. People might look to go to Etuan Moore, but I don't understand the play really. Etuan Moore is just not the most consistent guy, even when I don't think his usage will increase that much. I think it'll just benefit Davis and Holiday the most, and Miller. So I'm probably going to pass on him. On the Clippers, this is a nice spot. Pelicans are a pace-up team. Don't play good defense at all. Pelicans are they're 6th in pace, so it's a nice pace-up spot. And this is another fast-paced game because the Clippers are 11th, so they're not a slow team either. So I think we could definitely look at Lou Williams, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. Of the three, I like Jordan the most. We've seen big guys go off. Just look at Robin Lopez against the Pelicans before. And this is a really buy low price tag on Jordan. People might be a little hesitant on him because he's coming back from injury, but after playing 2 games, playing his full workload, I think he's definitely in play. I think that, and they didn't play yesterday, so he should be somewhat rested or more rested than he would be off a back-to-back. So him getting ruled out doesn't make me nervous. I don't think he'll be ruled out. I think he'll definitely play. I like him a lot at that price point. So, and then like I said, Williams, Griffin in play. I don't know what to do with them, though. I mean, I don't know if they'll make the cut for my one lineup. I definitely like Jordan more. I probably like Griffin the second most. It's kind of the same thought process as the other day when I broke this game down. So Griffin and Williams are at the same price point, but Williams reaches value if he gets really, really hot. He has to shoot really, really well. He had a 10-assist game the last time they played, sure, but that doesn't happen often. And he just went off. He was on fire, shooting over 50%. Griffin, though, he has the double-double upside, the block upside, the steal upside. He has more peripheral stat upside. So Griffin is more in play for $300 more, in my opinion. Sure, Williams could go off, but of the two, I prefer Griffin definitely. And then of the three, again, I want to reiterate Jordan. And then people might be on like Wesley Johnson or Tyron Wallace for value. Of the two, I probably prefer Johnson a little bit more, although I just don't trust him from a DFS perspective. You look at his game logs. I mean, it's just like the same amount of usage. He's taking roughly the same amount of shots. It's just kind of reliant if he gets like the steals and the blocks, and I don't want to invest a lot of money in that. Could it happen? Sure, but I'll just let others go there if they choose. And I probably, of the two, if you're asking me, I probably prefer Wallace a little bit more. I notice his shot attempts some games are, upwards of 10 to 11, so that's interesting. And if he hits like half of them, he could 6x that salary for sure, but I probably am going to pass on both of them. I prefer Miller at around the same price point. And with DeAndre Jordan back, that definitely takes Harrell out of play. Willie Reed out of play as well, so I'm going to pass there. Juwan Evans is questionable, although I don't know if he plays, but pay attention to that. We might not get that news before lock, but other than that, that'll probably do it on this game. Theodosic or whatever his name is, honorable mention, but I don't think he has the upside here. I prefer the other studs that I had mentioned. Could he go off? Sure, but I prefer the other guards that we had mentioned previously for this slate. On to the next one. So we've got, let me go back to it, the 4-gamer starting at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And it is kicked off by Detroit versus Cleveland. Game I think is worth definitely touching on quite a bit. So this burned me the other day. I did not play Tristan Thompson. We got the news that he was going to start. I just didn't feel as compelled to play him. Others did. It worked out for him at a cheaper price tag. But I definitely think we could look to go back. I think that they'll look to throw him out there for 30-plus minutes again. They'll need somebody out there to guard Drummond. Drummond's a very good player. They'll need him out there. Thompson's a good defender, so I have to think that they'll run him out there just as much as they did last game, if not more. So, like Thompson a lot at that price point still. I still think he's a little too cheap. He could still get double-doubles, blocks, that sort of thing. He's not a high-usage guy, but again, he could generate peripheral stats. So I like him for a value play. And again, just want to reiterate, this is a different slate than the one I just talked about. So the plays that I'm mentioning here do not cross over previously. Anyway, what else? In general, I don't love this game a whole lot. The way Reggie Bullock played yesterday was interesting. He went for 30 points. I think you could look to go his way. I do think people might be on him, though, because this is a back-to-back in a better matchup where he went off yesterday. So I'm not going to say don't play him, but just be cautious because Bullock is inconsistent. So there you go. I also think we need to pay close attention to Wade. If Wade is out, I think that makes Isaiah Thomas more in play, J.R. Smith more in play, but we'll wait and see what happens there. That's a 5 o'clock game, so we'll probably get the news before lock. What else? Avery Bradley's just a little too inconsistent for my liking. If you want to go there, sure, but I'm not going to count on him to make the cut of my lineup. What else? I think Thomas is in play even if Wade plays, but I'm not in love with it. And then Tobias Harris. Price is just a little too expensive for my liking. I prefer him if he was in the lower 6Ks in this matchup. I understand it's a good spot, but I'm just going to pass. Love is interesting to me because at 7,400, I think that's a really good price point. People, I don't think, will play Love. I think that's a good price tag on him. He has double-double upside. He could hit three-pointers, so I like Love here quite a bit, actually. If you're making multiple lineups, I definitely recommend throwing him in one or two. What else? Andre Drummond, 9.9. People might look to go there. They might feel compelled to pay up for the stud. He's an affordable stud you can pay up for. I understand it, but I'm probably going to pass. I just think at this elevated price tag, elevated ownership, I think that there's cheaper centers that we'll talk about later that I think have arguably more upside than he does, even in this matchup. And again, this is a back-to-back for Detroit on the road, so this is not a good spot on paper for them, so be mindful of that. And then LeBron James, you know, just a little too pricey for me. Detroit plays slow. They play pretty good defense, so I'm not going to count on playing LeBron. I think that if value does open up on this slate, that there's other studs to pay up for that we will talk about in the next game. This game was brief, but I think it was very important to talk about just the recency bias of, you know, I think that people could easily look to go to a guy like Bullock and Drummond. Although Drummond didn't do good last game, people, if you go back 2 games ago, he went off for 80-plus points against Utah. Like, you know, people will look at that, you know, so I just thought that's worth touching on. So, but it doesn't guarantee that he's going to do that here. So just thought I'd mention that. Next game, we've got Philadelphia taking on OKC. We have, so another interesting game to talk about. The stud that I think we can pay up for if value presents itself is Westbrook. He's only $200 more than LeBron. I think he has more upside than LeBron in this matchup. This will be probably the fastest game on this slate. Philadelphia is second in pace. OKC, no, I take that back. OKC is actually 20th in pace. I thought they played a little faster, but I take that back. Pace up spot for OKC. Pace down for Philadelphia. A tough spot for Philadelphia because it's pace down and OKC plays good defense. So that's important to keep in mind. I think we could look to go to Westbrook if value opens up. I think that Embiid is definitely a center that could outscore Drummond at a suppressed ownership. We got news already that Embiid is going to play today. You always got to be cautious of him on a back-to-back. Which game could he sit out, if any? But they did say that this is going to be the game that he's going to play. I'm not like plugging him in right away, but if he fits the build, I'll definitely not think about playing him. I think he makes for a strong play. I think that he's pretty much matchup proof. Steven Adams is a good defender, but I think Embiid could still excel. And that's a nice price tag on him too. So thought I'd mention him. I also like Ben Simmons. I like a lot that he is small forward point guard eligible. That is nice to see. I think that he makes for a strong play. I don't know what his ownership will be. He did well 2 games ago, but not last game. I think that he could still do well in this matchup. JJ Redick is still out, so potentially more shots for him. Saric, I'm just going to pass. I only really consider Saric and say Covington if Embiid is out. I just think that Embiid or Simmons, I just think that their usage is a little too low with both of those guys on the court. And TJ McConnell, I'm going to pass. All the other quote-unquote value plays, I'm going to pass too. So that'll do it on Philadelphia side of the ball. OKC, though, like I said, Westbrook, only really play him if value presents itself. Paul George, just a little too expensive for my liking. I prefer if he was below 8K. I just think 8K, even in decent matchup, is a little too much for him, considering he's second on the team in usage by quite a drop-off. So probably going to pass. I like Melo a bit more, although he's very shot reliant. If he gets hot, then he gets value at 6,700. He does take a lot of shots, so could it happen here? Sure, but a multiple lineup type of play, not one if you're making one lineup. Steven Adams is a little interesting at that price tag, but I don't really like to attack Philadelphia with bigs because they defend the bigs well. This is a nice spot on paper. Adams is the type of guy that could get double-double steals, so that's interesting from a tournament standpoint. again, a multiple lineup type of play. I think he has more upside than Melo at a cheaper price tag, so of the two, I prefer him. But not really going out of my way to roster him. Other than that, yeah, we got news that Andre Roberson is out for the season with a knee injury, unfortunately. I don't know who's going to start in his place, but don't play Terrence Ferguson. That one game that he went off on, that was pretty much it. He didn't do much afterwards, so I don't think we could count on him to have another 30 or 40 point game again. So just going to pass. Next game I think is really interesting. We got LA taking on Toronto. This is the game that is probably the fastest paced game of this slate. Lakers are first in pace. Toronto is 9th. Makes for a good fantasy, game to target. Just note that Toronto plays very good defense. Lakers don't. So I like, just in a vacuum, I like Toronto's side of the ball more than LA based off that. But let's break it down here. So I think Rosen and Lowry are squarely in play. These are the type of plays that I want to have in my lineup if people are going to pay up for Westbrook. I think that price per dollar wise, they could outscore Westbrook, price per dollar wise, not raw points, in a better matchup at a cheaper price tag. So I definitely like them. Also, I think Ibaka is definitely in play. He hasn't done well recently, but this is a 5.1 price tag on a guy who's going to get 30 plus minutes in a matchup against the Lakers. I'm definitely interested in that. People might look to go to Valanciunas. I don't know how he scored 60 points or whatever against Utah. That was just bizarre. If you're on him, great, but I didn't understand the logic of playing him. Maybe he was like the last guy to plug in your lineup and you played him. But other than that, I don't know how people came onto that play. If you're on him, great. You probably won all the money that night. Yeah, and then other than that, not too much interest in any other Toronto players. Just Ibaka, Lowry, and DeRozan for me. On the Lakers side, I think this is pretty interesting. So, as mentioned, Toronto, fast-paced team, but plays good defense. But I do think we could give Clarkson another look. Lonzo Ball is still out. And Clarkson, although he didn't have a good game against the Bulls in a good spot, I definitely think that we could look to go to him again. This is a cheaper price tag. We saw what he did against Boston, who's a tough matchup too. So I definitely think he could excel here at a $6,400 price tag. Maybe he gets there, maybe he doesn't, but I'm willing to definitely consider him. Randall is interesting to me too because I do think he has the upside of this matchup. I'm just worried about his minutes. I mean, his minutes are so volatile. He gets 30 some games, sometimes he gets 20. I want to really, if I'm paying for a 6K price tag especially, I want to get a guy who's 30 minutes in there. And Ibaka being cheaper, being in a better spot, playing more minutes potentially, I just prefer to go his way of the two. But if you're playing Randall, I understand it, but I'm probably going to pass. Ingram is interesting too. So Ingram is another guy, price cheap, should get 30 plus minutes. He's one of the few guys on the Lakers whose minutes are safe, so to speak. And 5,600 is a really low price tag on Brandon Ingram when you really think about it. I mean, look at his game logs. You've seen historically that he's priced above 6K. Almost 7K in some spots, so I definitely like Ingram here for this price point. Also, Kyle Kuzma is interesting. I just kind of feel the same way I do about him as I do Ingram. Yes, he could theoretically see a lot of usage here, but his minutes are just so unreliable. I do think he's a talented player, but what's his upside going to be in this matchup? I mean, maybe I would only really consider him if Ingram was out, but it looks like Ingram's playing, so I'm just going to pass on him. Excuse me. Then we have just a disaster in terms of the minutes distribution. Caldwell Pope, Nance Jr., Lopez, they're all seeing like low 20s in minutes, just like Kuzma and Ennis and other players. It's just, other than that, I don't want to look on the Lakers side of the ball. I just think that Clarkson and Ingram are the best plays because they're priced cheap to their upside, and also they just see the most safety in minutes. So it was kind of what I thought about Denver yesterday. Yes, Plumlee and I think I said Lyles and maybe Chandler too, and Jokic are all in play. But in terms of safety, Jokic is priced the highest of all of them, but Jokic also has the most minute safety. It's a game that could go small, but they're still going to play Jokic because he's just so talented. So I think it's the same type of logic here. Clarkson and Ingram are very talented players, so they're going to get the minutes anyway, I think. I've been wrong before, but I'm just willing to stick to that. So that'll do it for that game. Last game of the slate, the worst game in this slate to target, in my opinion. We got Sacramento taking on San Antonio. Both these teams play super slow. Sacramento 25th in pace, San Antonio 29th. It's not a great game to target. Cauley Stein is out, so that's the only really situation that has interest to me in this game. It's the same type of injury news for San Antonio. We still have no Rudy Gay. Manu Ginobili is a game-time decision. Kawhi Leonard's out. But, I mean, I don't love just this game in a vacuum. I mean, if I'm paying for one guy on Sacramento, it's going to be Randolph, maybe Labissiere. I think it's just kind of one of those things that we hopefully get lineups before lock, although I have my doubts because Sacramento isn't the best at that. We saw it the other day when they played at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We didn't get the lineup. They were the first game we didn't get the lineup until after lock. It was just so strange. So I have my doubts about getting that here. So, yeah, I think we could look. Of the three bigs, I'd probably like Randolph the most. I think his minutes are the most safe. I think he has the most upside for that price. And he probably has the most usage on the team, except for maybe Fox. But I think Randolph could do well at this price point in this matchup. Other than that, I think give Fox a look, but I'm not going out of my way to roster him. And yeah, on San Antonio, not loving a whole lot either. It's a better spot for them on paper, I guess, because Sacramento plays bad defense, and it's San Antonio's side is good defense and plays slow. So if you want to go off that logic, I understand. But Aldridge is a little too pricey for me in this matchup. I think the same about Gasol, Murray as well. If I'm playing one guy on San Antonio, it's probably Kyle Anderson. We're kind of hoping that he gets, those games when we were on him initially against Cleveland and the game after that, or the game before that, where he gets a lot of steals, blocks, just does a lot of different peripheral stats. But other than that, I'm not too interested on the San Antonio side of the ball. And that'll do it actually for this slate. I don't think there's much more to talk about. Good luck on your contest today, guys. Just note that note the break after the first game on the 5 p.m. slate is Detroit taking on Cleveland. And then the 2:30 slate is 3 games only, so just be mindful of that when you're kind of doing your analysis. And that'll do it on this episode of the Daily Fantasy Trifecta. Like I alluded to before, during the week, it's going to be pods most likely. So videos only on the weekend. Hope you guys do well on the slates, and good luck. Hope you guys win money. Bye.